Today we're going to talk about the Samson 9005 juicer. And of course, the Samson 9001 through 9005 are really all the same juicer, they just come in different colors. Now let's take a look at all the parts that come with your Samson juicer. Over here you have the drum. This piece is called the auger, and it does most of the work in your juicing. This bowl-shaped piece here is called the hopper, and that sits on top of the drum chute. These are the two plastic containers that come with it, one for collecting juice and the other for pulp. And of course, this is the juicing screen. This is the drum cap. It goes on the end of the drum unit. And this is the drum nozzle. This is the juicing nozzle that goes on the end of the drum cap. We have 4 more nozzles here used for making pasta. I have never done this. It always seemed like something of a gimmick to me. I can't imagine it turning out really good pasta, but I can't say that with authority. This one is the nozzle blank. It is used for mincing. It's also called the mincing nozzle, and I'll show you more about that in a moment. This is the cleaning brush, and it looks very much like a horse's toothbrush, except it's tapered at one end, and it's used primarily for addressing the screen when cleaning, although it can be used on other parts as well. Now this is the juicing sieve, and it sits on top of this plastic container like this. While they provide you this, we find that it does not work very well, particularly if you're using greens. Things tend to back up and overflow and make a big mess and waste a lot of juice. Now this is the mincing cone. You can see it looks just like the screen, except it doesn't have a screen. This is the part that goes with the mincing nozzle. It's also called a blank, and it's used to make things like coleslaw or make a mash of fruits and vegetables. Sometimes people use this and then take that mash and put it into something like a Wells press or some other hydraulic press. Now, I do not recommend the Wells press. We have tried 3 times to order one, and every time they ship damaged, and the quality of the unit is not very good. This is called the pusher, and it pushes the stock down into the drum and auger. And those are all the pieces that come with the Samson 9005 juicer. Now there are 2 items that don't come with the Samson that we found to be indispensable while juicing. The first is this measuring cup, and the second is this strainer. Now let's assemble the juicer. You can see here just above the locking cuff, it gives you arrows to show the direction to tighten and loosen the cuff. Let's take the drum and slide it into the cuff, and then rotate it clockwise to tighten. Take the auger, slide it into the drum, all the way to the back into the main body till you hear a metallic click. Then we're going to take the screen with the screen side down and place it into the drum around the auger. Next, we grab the drum cap, put it on there, and twist counterclockwise to tighten. It's a reverse thread. Then we take the juicing nozzle and place it on the drum cap and also go counterclockwise. We're going to take the hopper and affix it to the top of the chute of the drum, and then take the pusher and just set it in the chute. We're going to grab the 2 plastic containers and set them into position, one to take all the juice and the other one to collect the pulp.
To prepare citrus fruits for juicing, we take the peel off of lemons and oranges. We use an ordinary carrot peeler and take the rind off of both and keep as much of the pith as possible. You want to make sure the rind is all off because it can make the juice bitter, but the pith has a lot of nutrition. A medium-sized orange we cut into about 6 pieces to fit into the drum chute. Then you can cut the lemon into about 4 pieces. Lemon is the secret ingredient if you're using juice with a lot of leafy greens. It makes the juice more palatable, and some people like to put a piece of ginger in as well. Fruits and cucumbers help make the juice less dense, so you have a lighter, more flavorful juice.
Preparing an apple for juicing is a relatively simple affair. Make sure your apple is nice and washed. We want to keep the skin on it, so we're not going to be using one of these. I like to use an apple cutter for this job, so I won't be using a knife either. Using an apple cutter ensures that all the apple pieces are of the optimal size to fit into the juicing chute. Now I typically remove the core and save that for composting. The reason for that is that the core contains the seeds, and the seeds contain arsenic.
You get the most nutritional mileage out of leafy greens. Kale is one of the highest in vitamins and minerals. We like to use 2 types of kale, the lacinato or dinosaur kale, and there's also green or red kale. Endive is very good if you have it. We don't have it here, but it tops the chart in almost all the vitamins and minerals, and it's easy to grow in a pot. Spinach is very good, and things like wheatgrass or parsley are good. We don't recommend cilantro though because it's overpowering. For this juice today, we have 2 types of kale. That's not typical, we just happen to have them on hand. We have about 8 to 12 stalks of kale, an orange, an apple, 1 lemon, about 4 large leaves of leaf lettuce, a bunch of spinach, 7 or 8 carrots, and about a half of a cucumber.
So let's start juicing. First, I want to start a timer so we have an idea of how long it takes to get through a juicing session. Then we start up our Samson. Now I like to start with an apple or some other piece of soft fruit or vegetable because in truth the Samson doesn't do that well with soft fruits. It tends to clog up the auger and the drum. There are a couple different ways to address this. The first is to back down the juicing nozzle to the 2nd position. I don't care for this solution because it tends to reduce the efficiency of the juicer. It yields soggy pulp, and where there's soggy pulp, there's wasted juice. What I prefer to do is to alternate between hard and fibrous fruits and vegetables and the soft and pulpy fruits and vegetables. An example of a hard and fibrous would be like a carrot or a piece of kale, where the soft and pulpies tend to be the cucumber, apple, orange, and so on. What I found best to do is a little bit of planning up front to make sure we have a good balance between these 2 types of fruits and veggies. If you don't respect this balance, you run the risk of juice backup. This is one of the downfalls of the Samson juicer in my opinion. When things get jammed up around the auger, the juice can actually back up and leak out the locking clip and all over the counter. It can also back up into the auger receptacle. These areas of the juicer are not designed to come in contact with juice and are very difficult to clean. This can easily double the amount of time you spend in cleaning your juicer. I wanted to take a moment to discuss the different types of juicers. There are 4 basic models on the market today. The first is the centrifuge style juicer. This is like your Juice Man juicer. It's a fast rotation, high oxidizing type of machine. It is the fastest and probably easiest to use juicer, but it also has a tendency to oxidize the nutrients and destroy vital enzymes and other volatile nutrients. The second is called a masticating or dual auger juicer. This is a good juicer because it is slow rotation and does not destroy the enzymes and more volatile nutrients. A single auger juicer, of which the Samson 9005 is an example, is also good in that it is slow rotation and does not destroy the volatile enzymes and nutrients. The fourth juicer is called a press. There is no rotation involved in a press per se because it just uses pressure to extract juice. Now here we are playing the waiting game here. We're waiting for the Samson to catch up with us. You can see it still produces a little bit of juice well after I've stopped inserting vegetables and fruits. We want to make sure we get every drop of juice. Now I like to always put a carrot in at the end. I always save 1 or 2 carrots for the last thing to go through the chute, and that helps push out everything else that might be stuck in the drum. Then I like to do a quick reverse on the auger, stop, and then go forward again, and sometimes that will help get any stuck pieces out and get you a few more drops of juice. And that's the nuts and bolts of the juicing process. Now the thing about the Samson is that it yields a pretty gritty product. Despite forcing everything through the screen, a lot of pulp still makes it through into the juice. Now Samson supplies you with a sieve that fits over the plastic container, but as stated earlier, this product is horribly inadequate to the task, especially when using leafy greens. It has a tendency to clog up very quickly, and then your juice has nowhere to go, and it tends to flow over onto the counter. To make matters worse, you have to pull that sieve off of the plastic container and try to clean it out, and that just gets juice even more all over the counter. So it's a bad situation. So we found it necessary to use this soup strainer. It's a fine screen strainer to get the last bits of pulp out. And you can see I'm also adding some ice to the juice because we feel that this makes it more refreshing and taste a little bit better. And you can see that the pulp is already adding up pretty fast, and I have to roll it around to get it to come out. Now if it clogs this, you can imagine what it does to the sieve that comes with the Samson. Now I usually have to go through this 2 or 3 times per juicing session. It's one of the more frustrating things about the Samson 9005. As you can see, it does consume a substantial amount of time.
The next step is cleaning. First, pour out the pulp and set it aside for composting. If you don't compost, there are local gardeners who would certainly want it. Check with your neighbors who garden, or even ask at the local farmer's market. There's usually unprocessed pulp on the auger and the juicing screen. We feel this is further evidence of the inefficient design, and it indicates wasted juice. Use the brush that comes with the Samson to scrub the screen and any of the parts that need an extra scrubbing. Again, we use hot water to rinse well. And we'll use the hot water rinse on a regular basis, and perhaps once a week. Then we'll just hand wash everything with the soft sponge and dish soap. Here you use the narrow end of the brush to clean out the nozzle.
And there you have it, 17 minutes and 41 seconds, which makes for a pretty fast juicing time. But keep in mind that this did not include any preparation or washing of the vegetables. That could easily add 5 to 10 more minutes.
We made about 3 cups of juice. The design of the 9005 doesn't really allow for juicing much more. You can't do bulk juicing very well, but it does make just enough for 2 people to enjoy.
So let's talk a little bit about the pros and cons of the Samson 9005 juicer. At the top of the list of pros is the price. At about $240, $250, this model is an amazing value. On top of that, it comes with a 15-year warranty. To my knowledge, there are no other juice companies that will give you a 15-year warranty. It produces juice that tastes great, and it produces juice that has a high nutritional yield due to the slow rotation design. The slow rotation machines are really good at keeping all the enzymes intact and all the other volatile, fragile nutrients. There is little to no oxidation because the auger only moves at 80 RPMs. Last but not least, the Samson 9005 allows you to juice almost any juiceable fruit or vegetable, even wheatgrass. Most juicers cannot juice the range of fruits and vegetables that the Samson 9005 can handle. Now, it is true that it does some vegetables and fruits better than others, but it is capable, with the appropriate mixture and the appropriate care, to do just about every fruit and vegetable you can think of. Except, of course, for bananas and avocados. Nothing can juice bananas and avocados. Topping the list of the cons is the issue of slow juicing. Well, that is just something that comes with the territory of a low rotation juicer. The upshot is that you get to retain your nutrients better, but the downside is that it does take a little longer than the centrifuge juice models. The next item is that it doesn't cope well with soft veggies and fruits. Backup is a real problem with the Samson. Things tend to get clogged up in the drum and in the auger area because of the soft fruits and veggies. When it does back up, it is a real pain to clean and can double and triple your clean time. The third item is scale buildup. Even after just a couple months of juicing, we started to notice scale building up on the auger and some of the other parts. Now, we tried to descale it using a commercial descaling agent, and we let it sit for well over the amount of time that it needed to, and it didn't even touch it. When I contacted Samson, they said I could try putting it in a vinegar solution overnight or putting it on the top rack of the dishwasher. Now, I found that interesting because the manual says do not put it in the dishwasher, but I think what we're really trying to avoid here is the heat element inside the dishwasher. That is the element that actually generates heat to dry all the dishes. As long as that isn't engaged, which is usually the economy mode of your dishwasher, it's probably safe to put in the dishwasher. So I think that's why they were suggesting it, but to be honest, I find these suggestions to be of dubious merit, considering that a commercial descaler didn't even work. I don't see these things helping. Also among the con list is the overall inefficient design of the item. It is a design that relies much more on brute force and much less on good engineering and specifications. When I first put it together, I was surprised that the parts didn't fit together much more tightly. I expected to see more O-rings, gaskets, and high-tension clamps. But instead, all it has is a single screw-on, and that doesn't hold it very well. And again, that would help you with the issue of backups if you had better O-rings and tighter seals. Another thing is that the Samson tends to produce a relatively soggy pulp, which means that there's wasted juice in that pulp. The issue of secondary straining is another indicator of poor design. After squeezing through that little screen, there should be no room for grit in the pulp, and yet we find quite a bit of grit in the pulp, which tells me that some of the material is being squeezed around the screen instead of through it. This secondary straining wastes a lot of time. Now they offer you that sieve that fits on top of one of the plastic containers, but as already stated, it is woefully inadequate to the challenge and only causes more problems. Finally, the last con or limitation of the Samson 9005 is that it doesn't lend itself to bulk juicing. Now, this is not something that's specific to the Samson. Most of these low rotation auger style machines don't lend themselves to juicing. And what I mean by that is, if you want to make bulk juice and refrigerate it or freeze it, and there's a right way of doing that I'm not going to get into in this video. But if you want to do that, the design of this machine doesn't really lend itself to it. What I mean by that is that it would create a big mess to try to pull out the plastic containers in the midst of juicing, because the juice would continue to leak through. The only design that really seems adequate for bulk juicing is the press design. So in sum, if you are on a budget, the Samson is probably the best bang for your buck. It clearly has some limitations, however. It isn't the most efficient machine, but it makes great tasting juice with minimal or no oxidation.